The Tweed Valley is a really significant part of the world, and it's a living relic of Gondwana rainforests. So it's changed throughout many other parts of the world, but this area encapsulated one of the best examples still remains of what the Gondwana forests were once like 200 million years ago. So this is a Tweed Landcare's Filling the Biodiversity Gaps, Connecting the Tweed Coast to the Border Ranges project. This project's been running for over 11 years now. We've had 37 participating landholders, and we've helped to restore over 230 hectares of country in that time. So some of the key elements that we look for in these properties is we usually do a desktop assessment beforehand, so we do some mapping and we have a look at where the properties lie in the landscape. So we look at regional planning in regards to regional wildlife corridors, climate change corridors, are there threatened species in that area, the connectivity to national parks and to maybe other areas with conservation covenants on them.
We're at Early Up, which is just north of Moorlambar in the green cauldron of the Tweed Valley. The bushland is really, really significant because the habitat is the most important thing for the wildlife. If you don't have connectivity of habitat and good habitat, you won't get the diversification of wildlife. Identifying the wildlife became a passion of mine because there's so much diversity, and so I joined and become a registered member of Atlas of Living Australia, and in that time I've identified probably 10,500 different species on this property of ours. A lot of them are unique, a lot of things are threatened, endangered, vulnerable, near extinction. That gives us the incentive and the passion to keep going and to protect this environment forever.
One of the most important aspects of this project that just can't be done with other often government conservation or reserve areas is that we're working with private landholders who own a lot of that country is in the valley floors and in riparian zones, and those are the areas that are missing in the landscape. In national parks we have a lot of border country, we have a lot of ridges that are well protected, but the private land is what's going to work to help connect those.
Yeah, so far we've planted about 8,000 trees with the assistance of Tweed Council around the riverbanks and fenced that area off, and they've responded very well. We've also done a little bit of planting up on the top of the forest to link an existing forest with a remnant forest to make a corridor, and they're doing quite well too. And the latest thing is we're working with Tweed Landcare, who have been very helpful, to fence off an area of the wetlands, and hopefully we'll see that regenerate and improve and have even more wildlife out there.
We moved to this property about 19 years ago, and it's a really special place because it's the headwaters of the Tweed River, and it connects the national parks, the Border Ranges and Mebane to Nightcap National Park. So it's a really special place. It's where the Tweed begins, and it's the connection between these two amazing protected areas that then to the north go on to the big national parks of Queensland as well, so into Springbrook and Lamington. So we're in a really important biodiversity hotspot here. We've got a lot of threatened plants and animals that are found nowhere else in Australia, and we've got records of them here on this property. The property is really important also ecologically and for biodiversity in that it is at the top of the catchment and at the edge of the Caldera. And it was really important for us when we bought a property that we were particularly backing onto a national park, so that we knew that that land was protected in perpetuity and that anything we do downstream will do the same work. So we're going through the application for a Biodiversity Conservation Trust grant, so that we've got the top part of the property in a voluntary conservation agreement, so it will be protected in perpetuity as well for its biodiversity values. And because we're at the top of the catchment, it's really important to us that everything we do here contributes in a positive way ecologically to what's happening downstream. So we have seen the incursion of things such as the giant devil's figs, so they're throughout the Tweed Shire, but by being on top of for example, giant devil's fig and camphor laurel, it means that we are a positive contributor to what's happening downstream.
These projects are 90% bush regeneration. We very rarely have plantings involved with them because of the natural regeneration potential in this part of the world, with a lot of it being rainforest, high rainfall, good subtropical climate. A lot of the native species just power back through again. So within 3 years or so, we've got good functioning ecosystems that often self-maintaining with minimal maintenance from the landholders.
So bush regeneration is generally assisting the natural environment and those natural processes in recovery. For us, that's mainly controlling weeds and addressing some of the threats to the local ecosystem. So our main job is controlling a broad range of weeds that are present in the immediate environment. That involves a range of different tasks, so we're often cutting, painting smaller sort of woody weeds, hand weeding them where appropriate, spraying broader infestations of weeds and injecting camphor laurels and large woody weeds. That's sort of the primary tasks involved with what we do. One of the advantages of natural bush regeneration is you don't have to question sort of species selection so much. The right things are already coming up in the right place. It's really about treating the competition.
A really important part of the Filling the Biodiversity Gaps project is working with the Tweed Byron Local Aboriginal Land Council, but that's now expanded out to become more of an engagement with the landholders.
Connecting with country, it's always important. There's a cultural layer within that land that they now own or where they're working, and also mainly and importantly from a Guru perspective is it is a part of our responsibility as Indigenous people of the land to inform people of their environment, where they live, where they bring their children up. It's very important from a cultural aspect to maintain that responsibility of protection, well-being.
Aboriginal culture is about individuals belonging to a place rather than a place belonging to an individual. That's really what underlies the sustainability concept. Caring for country, that's what it's really about. It's in a way, it's caring for yourself and caring for other people. More and more, particularly in places that are powerful, environmental areas like Tweed Valley, that consciousness is becoming more and more obvious to people, and therefore the dialogue with the Aboriginal community is becoming more and more important and more valued. In our working relationship with Landcare, these projects that are all about wildlife and nature corridors are really all about connecting places, and that's what Aboriginal culture is based upon as well. So there's a real commonality there that's become quite profound.
So the work that's happening on this property is really important for the overall protection of threatened species, so flora and fauna, because so much of our landscape here and across the state and the country, so much of it's threatened, particularly by land clearing, by weed incursion, by inappropriate fire regimes. So it's critical to be providing habitat for native species.
When you're a landholder, whether you've got some farmland or got bushland, there's something for everyone to look after your land and be a good land manager.